Hello, bakers and bakerettes. How are you doing? I hope that everyone has had a wonderful and a safe holiday so far. We are about to end 2024 and go into a new year, 2025, and I hope that everyone will have a very safe New Year's Eve and New Year's celebration. Today, I'm going to start my preparation for my New Year's dinner. All right? And of course, I do the traditional New Year's dinner. So what I'm going to start with first is going to be our black-eyed peas. Now, you can buy the dried black-eyed peas. You can buy them in your frozen food section, which they have a variety of black-eyed peas. I'm going to prepare the one that's called the Hoppin, which is also a recipe that's on the back of the bag. And I'm also going to modify this recipe and somewhat make it what I want it to be. All right. And it doesn't really matter which brand of black-eyed peas, because dried black-eyed peas or dried black-eyed peas. All right. So the first thing you want to do is that you want to open your bag and you want to spread these out. And I spread these out on a piece of wax paper, parchment paper, whichever you have. You want to spread them out and you want to check them for foreign objects, particles. Primarily what you're going to be looking for are rocks, because some of the dried beans, when you purchase them, they will have foreign objects in it. And most of the time it's going to be rocks. So I just spread these out evenly on my wax paper, parchment paper. And also you can pick out some of the dried dead ones, the ones that kind of withered. As we know, nothing is perfect. So that's the first thing that you want to do, all right, is check them. And make sure that everything in the bag is as labeled on the bag. You can't eat rocks. And you don't want anybody else to be served and get the impression that you did it on purpose, when if they don't cook, it tells you clearly on the bag of dried beans that you need to inspect them, because they could have foreign objects in them. Primarily rocks. All right. All right, so I have inspected these and there are no rocks or anything other than beans in this bag. So this is a very good prep. And of course, these are the brand China Doll. Okay. All right, so then once you've inspected them, you want to transfer them to a pan and a bowl. I use a stainless steel. Right. So I only have 2 hands, so let's see if I can do it today. I'm just going to fold it up the 4 corners and then pick it up and just drop it in. Right. So now, the next thing that you want to do is allow these dry beans to soak. And I had someone in a chat on another YouTube channel that I was visiting their live, and they said they didn't know that you were supposed to soak dried beans. You have to soak them. You kind of rehydrate them, right? If you don't, it takes longer to cook them. And of course, the instructions are on the back of the bag if you don't care to soak yours, but that's the way I was raised. That's what I was trained, and that's what I've always done, and that's what I'm going to do. And also, when you soak them, a lot of the trash and the ones that are like really dry, withered, they are less dense than water, so they are going to float to the top, and you can easily remove anything that you don't want, right? So the rule is that you put enough water just to cover the top of the beans, and then you set this aside at room temperature, and you allow them to soak. The bag for this bean says 4 hours. Each one is going to vary. Some say 4, some will say 6, some will say 8, some will say 10. It just depends on the bean that you're cooking. Make sure you read your instructions. So with this one, it's like 4 hours. 4 to 6 is good. I usually do these at night, and I put them in my crock pot. Today, I'm going to soak them during the day, and I'm going to still prep them in the crock pot because I'm prepping a day early. Okay, so it's going to work out. So let me transfer the water to the bowl, and you can just use regular room temperature tap water. Now, what I do is, I said you always put the water above the beans. I always do about an inch above my beans. That way I can clearly see anything that I don't want, and I can easily take a colander, and I'll show you what I'll use. I usually take this little mesh colander, and I usually place it in, and it picks up whatever it is that I don't want that's on the top. And it usually does a pretty good job of collecting everything. And then, of course, I will drain the water off. And the routine, as you know, I will wash these. And then we'll be ready to place them in our crock pot. So I'm going to set these aside and just allow them to soak. And when it's time to do the washing and all of the prepping for the crock pot, I'll bring you back in on the bake. Cook, prep. I'll see you guys in a few. Okay, everyone. As far as the black-eyed peas, they have soaked long enough. I've added 2 turkey necks, smoked turkey necks, to my crock pot. I'm going to add some water to the crock pot. I put in just enough water to cover the meat because, of course, when you add the beans, the water level is going to rise. And if you need to, you know what? Hold that thought. Let me pour this water out. All right, so instead of using water, I'm going to use some natural goodness. This is Swanson, 35% less sodium chicken broth. Okay. I'm going to cook them in the chicken broth. So I'm going to add the broth, and this is roughly about 4 cups. Let's see. Yeah. And it's just enough to cover the top of the meat. Right? And I'm going to put this on low because I don't want them to cook fast. I'm going to just let them cook. Right? And I will throw that away. All right, so now the beans are ready to be drained and rinsed. And black-eyed peas is something that most people don't like, and I'm not a huge fan of them either. That's the one dried bean that I really am not a huge fan of, but it's all in how you prepare them, how you season them. And I'm going to do these kind of, sort of how I did the pinto bean soup, but just not the exact seasoning. So you can rinse them, I would say, 5 is my magic number. You can rinse these between 3 to 5 times after you soak them. And remember in the soap that everything that you don't want is going to float to the top. Right? Because it's going to be less dense than the water. So it's just going to settle out on the top. And of course, when you pour the water off, that's going to come off first. Right, so this is a pound of black-eyed peas. Right? So now they have, this is what they look like once you have rehydrated them. They're not as dry and beady looking. Okay. So then I'm going to add them to the broth with the meat. Because the meat is already done, actually. You just heat it up. But I'm going to let this cook slow so that the flavor from the meat, the beans are going to actually marinate it. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my seasoning. So I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of a neutral oil. And you can use whatever oil that you have. Olive oil. I'm going to use vegetable oil. So for every half a pound, you use 2 tablespoons. So this is a pound, so you need 4 tablespoons of vegetable oil. Now the oil is going to keep them from sticking, and also it's going to help the seasoning to adhere to your beans. Right. So then I'm going to add some garlic and herb seasoning. You know, I can't do anything without my garlic and herb seasoning. And I'm not going to measure, I'm just going to shake. Because I kind of know the measurements by eye of what the seasoning, you know, when it's enough is enough. I'm going to add some ground black pepper. Can't do anything without the black pepper. As usual, onion powder. And a lot of people don't do this. They just salt and pepper their beans, which is probably why they don't like the taste. You got to spice it up a little bit. You know, think out of the box. I'm going to add some garlic powder, and also I'm going to add a little garlic salt. Not a lot of garlic powder, probably half a teaspoon. And I like pepper, and I do like the white pepper, so I'm going to add some of it too. And of course, I will add a sprinkle of 2 sprinkles of crushed red pepper. You can also add paprika if you would like. Now, to this I'm going to stir everything up and just make sure that the meat and the beans and the seasoning is just evenly distributed throughout my crock pot. And I'm cooking this for New Year's Day, so I'm not in a rush. That's why I can allow them to like cook slow. Alright, so now, the last seasoning that I'm going to add is going to be some oregano. About a half a teaspoon. So I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of oregano. So now that I have all of my seasoning added, I'm going to place the lid on the crock pot, and I'm going to just allow the beans to cook. About 15 minutes before they're done, I'm going to add all of my aromatics. I'm going to add the onion, the bell pepper, the garlic cloves, some celery, and some fresh green onions. I'm going to add all of that about 15 minutes before they're done. And I'm also going to saute all of my aromatics prior to actually adding them to the crock pot. I'm going to saute them on top of the stove just until the onions are transparent and everything's soft. And then I'll add it to the beans, and I'll let it cook with the beans, and then they'll be ready to serve. All right. So I'm going to place the lid on it, allow them to cook. I will place you on a pause, and I'll bring you back once the beans are complete. Okay guys, the black-eyed peas, or the Hoppin John black-eyed peas, are almost ready. So I have chopped up 3 fresh green onions, 2 celery stalks, 1 bell pepper green, and 1 medium-sized onion. Okay, so I'm going to place this in the oil, and I'm going to saute them. You just want the onions to be transparent. Or we'll say translucent. You want them to be, you want your veggies or your aromatics to be very tender. So I'm just going to place these in this wrought iron skillet, and I'm going to saute them. And then once they're sauteed, I'm going to add them to the Hoppin John black-eyed pea crock pot, and allow them to cook for about another 15 minutes in the beans. So while these are sauteing, I will place you on a pause, and I'll bring you back when it's time to transfer them into the crock pot. Okay everyone, I've sauteed all of the onions, bell peppers, celery, fresh green onions, and now this is ready to be added to the Hoppin John black-eyed peas. Before I add it to the Hoppin John black-eyed peas, I did add 2 garlic cloves to this as well. I minced up 2 garlic cloves and added it in as well. Alright, I just wanted to show you what the peas actually look like. This is it's my version of the Hoppin John black-eyed pea recipe that's on the back of the bag, but this is my recipe because I did modify it tremendously. But this is what they look like, and they are just about done. So now I'm going to add all of the aromatics. Okay, we have everything added, and I'm just going to stir these in and get them mixed in very well with the beans and the smoked turkey necks. And as you can see, I did toss in a bay leaf. All right. So now, I'm going to place the lid back on these, and I'm going to allow them to continue to cook. And when the beans get as tender as I would like, I'm going to bring you back in, and I'll let you see what the final product looks like. So don't go anywhere. Alright, bakers and bakerettes, these black-eyed peas, or the Hoppin John black-eyed peas, are ready. I have transferred some to a saucer here, a little plastic saucer, and I'm going to show you how you know they're done. You take your fork and you push down, and of course they kind of smash, or you can take it and like cut through it, and these are tender and these are ready. So let me taste it. I would say this Hoppin John's black-eyed pea recipe is a hit. Thanks for joining me on this clean and cook tutorial on the Hoppin John black eyed pea recipe. That's from the back of the bag of the China Doll black eyed peas, but it's the modified version because I added my own spices and I did it my way. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you on the next cook, prep, bake, no bake, DIY, or apothecary. Have a great one.